20,000 men died of thirst 6 miles from a lake. July 4th, 1187, a burned plateau above the Sea of Galilee. Men in 70 pounds of chainmail dropping in the dirt before a single enemy reached them. The temperature passed 100, smoke so thick they could not see the next rank. And there, close enough to watch, close enough to point at, the freshwater lake of Galilee, blue and clean across the whole horizon. Not one of them reached it. Now here's the question nobody has ever answered cleanly. 3 days before this, that same army was camped at the springs of Sapphira. All the water they could drink, high ground, supply lines they controlled. Nobody besieged them. Nobody cut them off. They stood up, turned their backs on the water, and marched into a plateau with no wells on it. 20 miles of it. In July. So the real question is not how Saladin won. It is why they went. And the answer is not cowardice, and it is not stupidity, and it is not bad luck. The answer is that a war council voted to stay put, and then somebody walked into the king's tent that night and changed his mind in the dark. 3 men, no debate, no record of who else was told. By sunset the next day, the king of Jerusalem was a prisoner, the true cross was gone from history forever, and a kingdom that had stood 88 years was finished. Saladin had already won before the first arrow flew. And the weapon that beat them was not a sword or a bow. It was camels. Welcome back to the channel. Today we go through it step by step. The bait at Tiberias that nobody recognized as bait. The one man who told the truth and was called a traitor for it. The 20-mile march that cooked an army alive. And the single most psychologically brutal thing any commander pulled in the medieval world. Stay with me. The ending is not the one the chronicles sell you. To understand why they marched, you have to understand what kind of kingdom sent them. In 1187, the kingdom of Jerusalem was rich, heavily fortified, and rotting from the inside. Baldwin IV, the leper king, had held the nobility together by sheer force of will until he died in 1185. His nephew, Baldwin V, inherited the crown and died at 8 years old. That left a hole at the top, and the barons went straight for each other's throats. The man who came out of it wearing the crown was Guy de Lusignan, and almost nobody wanted him. He was king through his wife, Sibylla, not through any victory of his own. The great families of the kingdom looked at him with open contempt. And Guy knew it, because 4 years earlier he had already been humiliated in public. And here is the detail that explains everything that follows. 4 years before Hattin, at these exact same springs of Sapphira, Guy faced Saladin and chose not to fight. Militarily, it was the correct call. The army held, the kingdom survived. And for it, he was branded a coward, stripped of the regency, and mocked by the men he now had to command. Guy had done the right thing once, and it nearly destroyed him. Then there was Raymond III of Tripoli, the best field commander the kingdom had, a former regent who understood Saladin better than anyone alive. He was also the man nobody trusted, because after Guy took the crown, Raymond had cut his own private deal with Saladin. So the only person in this entire campaign who would give correct advice was also the person with the strongest motive to lie. And finally, Raynald de Chatillon, Lord of Carac, who kept raiding Muslim caravans and shredding truce after truce until Saladin swore a personal oath to kill him with his own hands. Saladin did not defeat a united kingdom. He simply waited for a divided one to make a mistake. In June of 1187, Saladin crossed the Jordan River with roughly 30,000 men and immediately tried to pull the Crusaders out of Sapphira. He provoked them. He raided in front of them. He offered them every excuse to come out and fight on open ground. It did not work. The Crusaders sat on their water and refused to move. So on July 2nd, he changed the target. He besieged Tiberias on the shore of Lake Galilee, and Tiberias belonged to Raymond of Tripoli. The town fell the same day. Raymond's wife, Shiva, shut herself in the inner tower with the garrison and held out. And here is what almost everyone misses about that siege. Saladin did not want Tiberius. He had no use for it. Tiberius was bait, and the hook inside it was a woman under siege whose husband was sitting in the enemy war council. That council met, and Raymond stood up. His wife was in that tower. His stepsons were in that tower. And he told the king to leave them there. Do not march, he said. The plateau between here and Tiberias has no water on it. Saladin cannot hold an army together through the dry season. His irregulars will drift away, and he will withdraw on his own. Let him. My town is worth less than this army. Think about what that costs a man to say out loud in a room that already calls him a traitor. A man willing to sacrifice his own family to save the kingdom is not a traitor. But once you have decided somebody is a traitor, even his sacrifice starts to look like a trick. Guy agreed with him. The council broke up. The decision was made, and it was the right one. Then night came. Gerard de Riedefort, Grand Master of the Templars, walked into the king's tent after everyone had gone to sleep. Reynald came with him. Do not listen to the traitor. Retreat once more, and the shame will outlast any defeat. Guy reversed himself in the dark. No council, no debate. Nobody was asked again. The next morning, 20,000 men walked away from the last water most of them would ever see. July 3rd, 1187. First light. The army moved out in 3 divisions. Raymond took the vanguard because that was his right as lord of the land ahead. Guy rode in the center with the true cross carried beside him. The Templars and Hospitallers took the rear, the hardest position. Ahead of them lay 20 miles of plateau to Tiberias, and not one well on the entire route. So let us do the arithmetic those men could not do. Mail hauberk, padded gambeson underneath, helm, shield, weapons. Somewhere around 70 pounds carried on the body. Galilee Plateau in July, over 100 degrees, no shade, no wind. A man working hard in that heat loses roughly a quart of water every hour. 20 miles at marching pace with combat interruptions is a full day. No army in recorded history has covered that ground in those conditions and arrived still able to fight. And Saladin understood the arithmetic perfectly, which is why he did not attack. His Turkoman horse archers harassed the column from morning until midday, shooting and withdrawing, never closing, never committing.
Your squabbling ceases now.
The goal was never to kill men. The goal was to steal time. Every time the Crusaders had to halt and form up to face a charge that never came, that was another hour standing still in full armor under the sun. By midday, they had gone half the distance.
Do not mistake our patience for weakness. We are merely waiting
Guy
for the
changed
rightful heir
direction,
to take his
turning
throne.
toward the springs of Hattin. Saladin sent his fastest units around to block that road first. So the army camped where it stood, at a village called Meskana. And Meskana had no
We must
water at
discuss
all.
the recent raids on the border. He can
Then
barely
came the
look us in
night.
eye. He is not
And
fit
this
to
is the
rule.
detail that separates
Look at him,
Saladin from
hiding behind
every
his
other
veil.
commander of his
Coward.
century.
brings
He
shame
brought
upon
camel
us all.
trains up from Lake Tiberias loaded with fresh water, set the jars down where the Crusaders could see them, and poured every one of them out into the sand. His men beat drums and chanted through the darkness so no one could sleep. Behind the lines, 70 camels unloaded arrows, 400 per archer.
Save the army!
20,000
You are relieved of
men
duty, Lord
sat
Guy.
in their
The council
armor,
has spoken.
no water, no sleep, listening to water hitting dirt. By sunrise, Saladin had won the battle. He simply had not fought it yet. At dawn on July 4th, Saladin lit the
trying to
brush
draw us
his
out.
men had stacked
Hold the line, we wait for the
upwind
main
through the
force.
night. The smoke rolled downhill
Your master
into the
demands
camp
terms we cannot
and
accept.
filled it.
The castles remain under our control.
Men who had
Saladin
not
is merciful,
drunk
Count
in a
Raymond.
day and a
His
half
patience is not
now
with
could
us.
not breathe
The security
either.
of the realm depends on this
And then,
alliance.
the
This
arrows
trust will
started.
be the ruin of us all.
The Arab historian Imad ad-Din, who was there, described men so studded with shafts that they no longer looked like lions, but
By the
like
grace of God, this
hedgehogs.
road is closed. Your goods
The
are
infantry
forfeit.
broke
We are
first.
peaceful traders, sir.
They ran uphill toward the
Halt.
twin
By the
peaks
grace
called
of
the
God, this
Horns of
road is
Hattin,
closed. Your
looking
goods
for
are
high
forfeit.
ground and
We are
air,
peaceful traders, sir.
and they refused every
The Templars
order to
refuse
come
march
back
under
down.
Guy. Look at Saladin's
That
army.
was
They
the
are
end.
unified. We are doomed
Because
if
in
we
a
wait here
Crusader
arguing.
army, the infantry existed to shield the cavalry from arrows. Without them, the knights were not a strike force anymore. They were stationary targets in expensive metal. Gerard led the Templars in a charge at Saladin's left flank with no infantry behind him, and they were almost entirely destroyed. Then the royal tent came down. In medieval warfare, that was the formal signal that a king had fallen or surrendered, and everyone on that field understood it.
Secure the alleyway.
Guy was taken alive.
Move
The true
forward. Keep
cross
watching the town.
passed into Saladin's hands
Be
and
vigilant,
was
men.
never seen again.
Hold the line. Help is
And
coming.
here is where it turns. Saladin had Guy brought to his tent and handed him a cup of iced water, and by the customs of the time, that gesture was a guarantee of life. He spared the king. Then he turned to Reynold de
Cannot
Chatillon
abandon
and
the
killed
tower, my
him
lord.
personally
She is trapped.
for
I know.
breaking his
We
sworn
attack at
word.
dawn. Prepare the men.
He punished the
Gentlemen,
oath
the
breaker,
hour is late.
not
we
the
must decide
loser.
the fate of Tiberius. We cannot
Jerusalem
let the Saracens
surrendered on
advance further into
October
the kingdom.
2nd,
The march across that
1187,
desert is madness, Guy.
88 years
Saladin
after the
wants
First
this fight, but
Crusade
we
had
must deny
taken
him.
it.
Stay here.
Europe answered with the Third Crusade. But the battle was not lost through cowardice. It was lost inside a tent, in the dark, when one man was persuaded that being called a coward was worse than dying of thirst. How many disasters in history started exactly that way?